On this mileage unknown, we are back in the garage working on our engine swapping shenanigans. Right now we've got the 56 in the garage. I'm gonna go through what we're gonna do on it, and then we'll end up bringing in the 65 and see what we need to do with that one. It's gonna be the same. So we're at the point where we're removing transmission, so we're gonna need to undo the shift linkage under the back seat. So once that's undone, we're also gonna get the car up on jack stands. Once the shift linkage is undone, car's up on jack stands, we are going to be removing the axle tubes and everything on this one. So we're going to be removing those 3 bolts. We're going to disconnect the brake lines. We also have the transmission cradle mounts as well as the nose cone mount at the front of the transmission. And we're going to have to remove, or at least disconnect, the clutch cable. So pretty much everything's coming out of this one. What do you think, Pops? You getting excited? We're working on it again?
I am. It's going to be really nice when everything gets completed. We can put it on the road.
So I have to ask, you've owned a ton of cool old cars, especially when you were young. You had a bunch of cool old Chevys. You've had some Mustangs. You've had a Challenger at one point. You've had all kinds of cool stuff, but the only car that's ever just stuck with you is Volkswagens, and you've had a ton.
That is correct.
What made Volkswagen stick your whole driving time at this point?
I think what happened was the first Volkswagen I got was a 1956. And I found that through my brother, my younger brother, Gene, who was a Volkswagen mechanic. And he helped me pick the car and he helped me keep it running, and I just fell in love with them. And for me, it's been like, I don't know, just almost like a romance where you get involved with something, and even when things go bad, you're still hung up with them. And I've had 356s. The only new Volkswagen I ever bought was a 65. I think I paid about $1,640 for it. Monthly payment was $49 a month.
Can't beat that.
Can't beat that.
Wish you could get a car payment like that these
days. For sure. But I had a 63, I've had two 61s, a 73, a 67 or 68 fastback. There's just something about them once you own one. And the thing is, whenever somebody had talked to me about Volkswagens, about mine, it was always, well, when I had my Volkswagen, somebody's always got a story about a Volkswagen. And it's just, they turn out to be good friends, actually.
Yeah. Well, cool. We are going to get cracking on this thing and see if we can get how far we can get today. All right, something I didn't think of when I was first telling you guys what we were going to have to do is we obviously have the e-brake cable to contend with. So we're going to pull this drum off. We'll pull the drums off and actually disconnect the e-brake cables. We got this fancy new tool that holds the drum so we can get these nuts off easier. A lot of times you have to use that weird socket special tool that you have to bang with a hammer, but we're going to see if we can use our new tool that holds the drum and see if we can get that nut off and disconnect the e-brake cable. We've got our fancy new brake drum holder, so we can work on getting that nut off now. We got the cable, the e-brake cable disconnected from the arm here. And now we've got a bolt on the back to actually unbolt to be able to pull that assembly out. All right, so we went back and forth trying to decide how we were actually going to do this. We've come to the realization, because my dad's car has these brake drums that I believe were 4-lug drums drilled for a Porsche wheel. We're not entirely sure whether those drums are going to work with the backing plates on the 65. So what we're going to end up doing is pulling the backing plate and everything off of both cars and leaving them with each respected car. So this might be a little interesting, but we're going to pull the backing plate and everything, leave it with the 56, and do the same on the 65. That way we don't have to worry about the brakes as much. We're not going to have to re-bleed the brakes on this. Well, we're on to the other side. Of course, we're finding more and more stuff as we go along that needs to be disconnected, swapped over, whatever. We got to do the pull the starter. I'm going to start working on the trans mounts. My brother absolutely loves the tool that we got to hold the drum. Made probably all the difference in the world with what we were doing, honestly. Much easier than the old school method of trying to beat a hammer on that axle nut. Everything I ordered for this car, I'm going to give a shout out to Ep11. Although they're not sponsoring me or giving me any super discounts or anything, I swear everything we've ordered from them recently has showed up within 2 days. So their shipping is awesome. We got the first transmission out, one down, one to go, and then swapping, going back and forth. I'll tell you, this car was kind of a pain. The transmission is super, super greasy, nasty, but it is out. We'll do a little bit of cleaning up in here before the new one goes in. We've got a few other things to do in this. As you can see, the wiring's less than ideal. And we're going to try and clean up the firewall, at least cover some of this up, because at one point this car was kind of cut up to have a big turbo motor in it, and that was before my dad bought it, and that's where some of that hacking has come into play. But we'll at least try and cover that up so it looks a little nicer. All right, so this might be helpful, might not. We're going to give it a whirl. When we pulled the other transmission out of the car, we actually caught the boot on the cradle right there. And so what we've done, just taken a couple pieces of fuel line, we cut the fuel line down the side, and we're going to press those pieces of fuel line over that transmission cradle on both sides in hopes that we save the boots on the nice transmission coming out of the 65. Pleased to say this transmission came out. Our little hose hack there worked and protected the boots, so we didn't tear the boots on this one. You see how much better that transmission looks in comparison to the one that came out of the 56. We are ooh, you're dumping it all over there. We're definitely losing some gear fluid out of this one. In comparison to that transmission, didn't leak any gear lube, which I suspect is part of the issue, part of the noise that was going on. So I think all we have time to do today is actually get the trans out of the 56 into the 65 and get this one to where it's rolling so we can get it out of the shop today. if you've been watching the video and watching the time lapse we've had going on, you've seen us really fight with the transmission out of the 56 going into the 65. We took it back out, and I don't know how easy it will be to see without these transmissions sitting side to side. So I'll try and get the same images here. If you notice the position of the mount to that shift shaft and the position of the top of the case to the shift shaft on this old transmission in relation to the position of the mount and the shift shaft on the new transmission and the top of the case and the shift mount. So as of right now, old transmission not going to fit in the 65. New transmission not going to fit in the 56. We're feeling a little beat up today. We're probably at the point that we're going to clean up, do some Googling. I'm not 100% sure if we can swap these nose cones out on these transmissions and get them to do what we need to do, but that might be the next step. So, yep, my brother's screaming a little bit. Definitely figured out that. So this is a non-synchro mesh transmission out of the 56. I think 61 and up are synchro mesh. They're going to be that style there. 60 and earlier are going to be this style. So the problem is this transmission is going to go into the rolled over car. To be honest, I think we're going to pull that mount off, get it in, just so this car rolls, and that's going to be the extent of what we do with this transmission. That transmission going in the 56, we have found a adapter that Ep11 has. I'm going to order that. Some people complain that with that adapter, because it is a solid mount, that it's a little bit noisier. So I'm going to say we'll put that solid mount on that one and maybe buy some of the cheaper rubber mounts for the engine trans cradle, see if that kind of balances out the noise. I don't know how big of a difference it's going to make. It's got the engine's loud, everything's loud, so I don't know how much vibration or how much noise you're going to get out of that. But as of right now, we're going to clean up and clean up a little bit. Unfortunately, the cars are kind of torn apart. Tomorrow, I think we're going to come back and hit it, pull that mount off, see if we can get that transmission into this car, the wheels back on, just so it rolls. Because this car is never going to drive again, or at least when it does drive again, it's going to be in a much different form than it is right now. So that's where we are for today. Maybe I'll make a little video tomorrow of us swapping this in, but we'll go from there.